Here at AI Field Day, we've been talking and seeing a lot of AI solutions, and one of the common things we see in them is that they are a dialogue-based interface, that we are asking questions of AI, and it's giving us excessively long answers to questions that possibly might have been answered more rapidly. But is that really what we want from our AI applications? In this Delegate Roundtable, we're going to start with the thought that we want a little less chat, a little more action. And fundamentally, I feel like these chat interfaces are more of a proof of concept, a way of thinking about what AI can do for you. But really, they put the AI in a place it shouldn't be. They put the AI at the front. And the AI is not the purpose of what we're doing. The AI should be the thing that makes the thing better, to quote Bobby Allen from AI Field Day 4. This absolutely is where AI needs to be. AI needs to be a feature of an application. It needs to make our applications better rather than being the application itself. And Andy, this was your pet peeve, wasn't it? You really didn't want to have everything chatting with you.
Well, I mean, this was absolutely, I didn't want to have everything chatting at me. And you can go to the Stephen hosted roundtable and hear some of the discussion we had around that. But we've seen a bunch of different vendors over the past few days, and we'll be seeing a few more today. And for the most part, the products that they are talking to us about are ones where you type in something and it gives you a verbose response. And first off, we already talked about, do we really need a verbose response versus the 3 words that answered the question? And the second part of it, which I asked in one of the other sessions, is, can this stuff do my expense report? I would really like, if we're going to be doing all this work on AI, how about having it do something useful, do work for us, rather than write prose for us or paint a pretty picture for us or do something like that. And those are the types of things that I think would add more value to what we currently call AI. I won't argue whether there's actually any real intelligence behind it or not, but it would be useful if some of these AI projects were working toward making our lives better rather than talking at us more.
Well, yeah, and on that example that you gave, I go that, why do I have to do an expense report at all? One of my concerns with this, I focus on AI of like the automation and like making like personal productivity. I think you mentioned earlier in the day. Like, why are we automating things that shouldn't exist? If it's possible for the machinery, because these are computers, if they can do your expense report for you, why do you even have to have a conversation with it to make that happen? Why doesn't it just automatically happen before, and you don't even have to ask?
Yes, Ray attempted to show me how to do my expense report in some chatbot here, and he was typing in like how much I spent on lunch and how much I spent on dinner. It's like, no, do my expenses. Yeah. That's what I should be able to have it do.
But of course, in order to do that, it has to have complete observability into literally all your transactional data.
You hate the surveillance world. And another point, in order to do your expense report, you want complete surveillance of everything you do across the world. Well, you can't have both.
Yes, you actually can, and it wouldn't be that hard, because you can take pictures with your phone and simply say that this is a shareable photo or this is not a shareable photo.
Honestly, it would be way easier if your phone just listened in on all your conversations all the time, and then it would know. No, I
followed your credit report or whatever.
And by the way, I have that without AI, right? Yeah. Take a picture of your receipt, get sucked into QuickBooks Online. At the time I can add a categorization, or with some things I can just put an image of all my receipts into a certain folder, and all my data factory stuff runs through, scans it and everything. So I can have that without AI, by the way.
By just having, you are allowed to spend this much money, and you don't have to do an expense report at all.
Or you could have a human assistant.
So now you're saying you opt out of having a boss, which is great, but not everyone can do that.
But I want to kind of rephrase this a little bit. My feeling of this topic is back to something Frederick and I have talked about a lot on our podcasts that we've done on AI, and that is when all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And right now, the hammer we have is large language models and image generators, and transformers of various sorts. And essentially, it's such a pretty hammer and it's such a fun toy, that we're trying to do everything with it.
Mhm.
And the problem, I think the root problem of less chat, more action is chat is just so fun and cool and different and new, and we
Yeah.
can do things, and look, it pretends to be a person. And so we try to put that everywhere instead of the 500 other potential AI algorithms and systems and solutions that could help us.
I think we
I disagree with
we
that
like
completely.
I think we like the input. We don't mind telling it what to do.
No, okay, but
What sucks is the output. We don't like the output.
that is the issue, is the input. Like I think the chat interface is not equitable to like humans, because some humans are really good at communication, and some humans
True.
think half the conversation inside their brain and thought that they put it into the box, just like they thought they told you something when they tell you just the very end, like punchline of the joke without telling you the joke. You have the same problem with the usability of like these chatbots. We need less chat. We need more of them to discern what's going on for us and act on our behalf without us having to say, I spent X, I spent Y, I spent Z. I need to be able to say I want the expense report.
The problem I have is that vendors are spending a lot of effort and time adding AI to their products because it's a great marketing, yada, yada, yada. We all know about AI washing like cloud washing was a couple of years ago. We are lacking the innovation to say, instead of how do I take AI to make what I'm doing a little bit easier, a little bit faster, a little bit better, how do I innovate to make AI do something I cannot do before, right? It would be great if we could do our expense reports. It would be great if we can do all of that. I come at it a lot. I spend a lot of time in the security realm. And one of the problems we have is, as with everything else IT, it's very complex and it uses an arcane language, which means the specialists are responsible for doing the work of implementing policy, but the specialists don't know how to specify what the policy should be. What would be really great is if we had tools that AI is really good at doing something, which is somebody who is a line of business leader who can say, this is what the policy is. You should, because you are, I should be able to simply say, Calvin has access to X, Y, and Z data. And from there, the GPTs, the transformers, can transform that natural language policy statement into whatever it is throughout all the tools in the environment to make that happen, right? That's the taking action.
I love that
rather than
idea,
giving me
but-
text, right? And the first step may be, well, here, translate that from Calvin has access to these 3 folders to here's the lines you would put in your firewall and whatever. But what I want to do is get beyond, and I think that's what.
But how do you get the AI lawyer injected?
Yeah,
into
well,
that process?
but get beyond the. I give it something and it spits out text or an image back to me. I give it something and it takes action on my
I'll
behalf.
tell you what I want to give AI is my inbox. Solve my inbox for me,
Prevalent.
because my inbox is only this big. It's how many lines it will show on the screen. Anything below that,
That's literally
my
a
chance
feature of Apple Intelligence in iOS 18.
yeah, we'll see. We'll
So
see.
my question for you, though,
But
is
my point is that's a good problem to solve. I would love that, because that is a
would you
a pit
trust
of information
current
I can never get.
AIs to do this? Right? Is the reason that we're not getting past these chat interfaces where I ask a question, I get a response back, and then I choose what to do with it?
Well, hold
That
on.
we can't yet trust these large language models to take an action. Do we not trust these large language models?
And,
Traditional AI.
and the answer is no, we don't trust them. But at the same time, if I told something to do my expense report, what I would do is review it before it got submitted.
Mhm.
And it's the same idea with AI driving. This concept that you have self-driving cars is, right now, there's still a driver behind the wheel, and that driver behind the wheel is still responsible for what that car does.
For now.
Well, and I'm fairly certain, at least in this country, it's going to stay that way, because you can't not have a driver at fault if something goes wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, you absolutely have to have if you're on the road, you have to have somebody who is responsible for what that car is doing.
Just like
and-
CAD software.
And with Waymo and Cruise and companies like that are learning, maybe it's not a good idea for the company to take on that responsibility.
Well, no, I would love to see these companies get slapped hard and potentially have criminal charges filed against them, because the way that roads work in this country, roads are a public access type thing, and if you're going to do something dangerous on that road, there needs to be somebody that can be held responsible for it.
Some of them are unsafe at any speed.
Yeah,
Ooh, there's a
But that's not an AI question.
yeah.
Well,
having a background in large language models, you have to realize that the technology, as we know it today, ChatGPT, pretty much escaped out of a lab, right? It was not meant to be released.
Yeah.
That's the first point. The second point is
Just
that
like COVID.
that actually happened 2 years ago, right? And so what you see today as far as AI applications, it's not companies saying, I want a large language model application. It's because the others have it. It's a rat race you are in.
yeah.
And as a result of this, a lot of the big guys who deliver, Facebook and Google and so on, they deliver the large language model to us. We consume them, but we all know there are issues with it. And they know that they have issues with it, but there is no time to fix it. So that's
Yeah, and in talking to some of these companies, and to Jack making this point as well, they don't feel they have a choice
It's a rat
in doing
race,
this. Because like some of them, like I've been talking to them and they ask, so should we, how should we approach AI or what should we be doing this? And I mean, a lot of the time my response is that like there's the real answer and then there's the answer that you're going to need. The real answer is you should ignore it and concentrate on building products that actually solve user needs. But the second one is because of the market incentives that you are in, you are not going to have a choice. You have to have something to talk about because otherwise all of the investors and analysts will hit you really, really hard because you don't have an AI story.
Right.
Can we roll back to the conversation about what we want that AI story to do? Because we didn't come here to start thinking about the geopolitical context of why we have this AI so much as what we want it to do for us. Because we are clear that even though it escaped from the lab, this is going to be a really useful tool and it is a reality of how applications and how our IT world is going to operate. We did start with the idea that chat is a terrible thing for our applications to be. I think we kind of universally agree that there's a whole lot more value that we can get out of out of AI applications if they're just not talking to us all the time. Not to say we don't ever want them to talk to us, but we want to close that loop. And what's going to be necessary to get to the point where that AI disappears and actually just does the work for us? Is there a path to get there?
And that's it, is what is the user need? And that's sort of what we've been saying. Everyone's slapped a chat interface on top of stuff because we have a shiny hammer, but without actually looking at, well, is that actually a good interface for what we're trying to achieve here?
Precisely.
Like, why are we doing this? And that these companies just keep doing it.
And is that the best vehicle? Is a large language model the best algorithm to achieve what we're trying to achieve? I mean, OpenAI just released a new version of ChatGPT that ostensibly can do math, complex math problems. Is a large language model the best way to do complex math problems? No.
Yeah. And so I have an example of, a chat-based thing that I'm just going to assume has a bunch of AI behind it. It might not, but I assume it does. So very large online travel booking service that I have to use because one of my clients mandates it. I hate having to do that. And I had to go in and find out if I could change a ticket. I could wait on hold for an hour to talk to a human being who would pretty much not understand me and everything. But they offered a chatbot to do that. And I said, we all cringe at those because you're the only reason I call in is because it's a problem I can't do on the website. And so I get in and I'm like, I need to know what are the penalties and fees, just so it would hand me over to a human chat person. And it just stayed doing it. What's your record locator? Here's my record locator. Okay, I see you're on Air Canada flight, blah, blah, blah. What sort of change did you want to do? And I'm like, I need to change the outbound date to be 3 days prior, and I want a morning flight. And it worked. It worked. And at any point, I could bail on it, like we all do with a lot of these customer support things. And I got through the whole process, and it did the usual stuff. Would you like me to email this? And I wanted to say no because I know I've already logged in to see that it got done the way it that made. And I'm one of those people. I don't want to call up a stranger. I like talking to people, as you guys know, but I hate calling in. It's the most anxiety-inducing. I put it off till it's too late and everything. That was a chatbot doing something for me that, yes, a human could do, but I felt like it was faster. I didn't have to wait. It understood my needs. It wasn't handling, as far as I know, 3 people at the same time and going off. That's one success story. But my work, all the AI projects that I work on, the end person never sees it. And it's things like a large government agency that has decades of files with text and images in hundreds of languages. They are never going to have a human that can go through and do like the elastic search or semantic search or all of that stuff. So it's going to be computerized, and I want them to use modern innovative technology to do that. But we also have to verify, and that's why, the chat things are called Copilot and Gemini, to imply a human and a computer doing these things.
But on that, Isaiah, you could have humans do it, but it will cost money. But it will cost money.
And they would do it poorly. Yeah.
So and that's computers are good at the things that humans do poorly. Like they can maintain attention for long periods of time on boring tasks.
Yeah.
And anything which is very, very repetitive,
Yeah.
they're good at doing it. And because it's repetitive, they do it exactly the same way each and every time. And that's one of my biggest frustrations with large language models and this thing is that they do not do it exactly the same way each and every time.
Right.
So in many ways, we've actually made it worse. What if there is another way of doing this that computers are actually good at, and we can do that? Things like other forms of AI, which you were talking about before, Karen.
That's right.
Looking at lots and lots of images to go on.
They use large language models as well. It's just right now we're in this thing where, like you said, it's all chatbots. Everyone wants to demo with a chatbot, even if their technology really isn't built for supporting chatbots.
Yep.
And I get it because, demoing a bunch of documents being searched and translated and the translations being checked by another AI and the translations being verified for a person takes too long, it's too big, and it's not as fun. So I get all that. But I think there's a lot of AI action. Someone go see if I can get that URL. AI action happening that we don't see, that I think it was so important to this large government agency that they, couldn't fail, but they knew that they also couldn't solve this problem with any amount of technology, and doing it without AI, all the various types of AI, was probably going to lead to worse results.
I definitely see applications that are being built that combine multiple types of AI.
Yes.
So as a simple thing, we saw yesterday in the Elastic presentation that they were combining full text search with a large language model and trying to get the correct answer through that methodology. I've also seen multiple passes through large language models in order to find out, well, that prompt that you sent me, I'm going to use a large language model to look at that prompt and actually discern what I should send to then the vector search and then to the second large language model that's going to interpret the output. I can definitely see places where through that path, there are non-large language model AIs working, and that combination of using large language models for what they're good at, not for doing math. We know that there's a far better ways of doing
pretty
math.
good at doing math.
But looking at a handwritten formula or a LaTeX description of a formula in a scientific paper and turning that into the actual math that's required and the computation that's required, that's where I can see huge value for the large language model. But that's not a chat interface. That's going to happen somewhere else in a workflow.
And they aren't just tools. I have more than one tool. And I am a human being, and I use technology to assist me. So I get the computer to do the boring, tedious work that I am bad at. That's what we should be doing more of, not replacing humans with a worse solution. They should be an assistant to us. They are tools. They aren't my friend. They're a device. They're an appliance. And I should be able to use them when it helps me and not have to use them when they don't.
That's why I'm kind of stuck with the phrase AI augmented, and then what the task is or the domain is. Is it replacing a human, or is it helping us with doing parts of that job that it actually is good at doing, right? Like code completion, like, suggesting changes to code that you're writing, maybe doing some testing of it. It's not designing software. It's not what a developer or an architect is going to do.
Zev, do you want to be talked to by a chatbot all of the time, or would you rather have some action taken by the AI?
I feel like we're still in learning mode. and we're experimenting. Lots of companies are experimenting right now, and I believe it's just the beginning. So whatever we're critiquing right now, and what we wish would happen right now, in my opinion, it's just a matter of time. It needs to learn. It needs to get more data points. It needs to get to a point in which it can kind of guess, but it already knows what you're about to do. And then the experience would just be different. We would have that wow factor when we actually go and start. We would want to start talking with an agent, but the system would already know that our intention is to go and change the ticket, and we are constantly asking about certain aspect of change, and it would already pop that up because it already knows. It already learned that it would be a tailored experience. So the way I see it, we can definitely keep complaining about what we're getting at right now, or what we're getting right now. But at the same time, we need to just zoom out a little bit and see that it's just part of a bigger process. And I would love to, as Andy suggested, do more and less talk. I mean, I would appreciate if I wouldn't have to talk, right? And just have a faster way of communication. But that's far into the future, or maybe it isn't. So I'm okay with what I have today. I just understand that it's that's the point we're in today. It will change in the very near future.
And just a point on that is, yes, I think that we definitely should see things doing more, and I think part of the less chat, more action the question might come up: are we learning the right things? Do we need to learn more of the same things that we're doing now, or do we need to start learning something different? And I think that kind of goes to the root of the problem of, do we need, as you said, do we need large language models solving complex math problems? Probably not. But we need to start thinking about what we do need to start learning on to actually start being useful and being actionable, rather than writing prose for us or solving math problems.
But perhaps that's what we need to go through now in order to get to a better point or a smarter point, in the next stage. Perhaps it needs to collect and learn to be able to actually establish something that it would be smarter, going forward.
I don't disagree with that at all, but it seems to be the continuing effort is to cram more stuff into the large language models we have, rather than thinking about, well, what should we actually be learning?
Yeah, so a large language model, in my opinion, should be a user interface element, just like a GUI or a mouse. It is a way to interact with other systems within the computer. And if we decided, as we did in the 80s, that GUIs were the coolest thing ever and everything should be graphical and there should be fonts and clip art and blah, 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 well, then it just kind of goes completely off the rails. But eventually we learned our lesson and we said, wait a second, that's all well and good, but we really need our computers to do different things. And I think that's what's going to happen next, is we're going to get less chat, more action. We're going to get chat be a tool used in chat-specific functions, when chat makes sense, whether it's input or output. And we're going to have other systems do the behind-the-scenes work. I think we're already seeing that with RAG. I think RAG is a light post showing the right way to go with AI next. And I think that we're going to increasingly see AI relegated from being the application. I'm sorry, OpenAI, but your entire product is just a feature. It's just a user interface element. And we're going to go from that to a future where this is just one tool. It's just one way of interacting. There are computers without GUIs. There are computers without keyboards. There will be, thankfully, AI without large language models.
Yep.
And AI without chat interfaces that
Exactly.
are predicated on those large language models.
They'll have less chat and more
action. We definitely want to see more action.
Elvis song.
Well, it highlights. I think we brought up like health and other applications, and whether it's looking at things in computer vision, looking at your whatever came back from the lab results, and then if you have something that through the wonders of computer vision and machine learning, it's seen millions of patients. There's a difference between the millions of patients and then like what that human in the loop is going to do interpretation and telling you what your diagnosis might be. Then a large language model might help. You might want some more thoughtful language depending on what your bedside manner preferences are. Give it to me straight, doc. Or that, so there's probably going to be some layerings. Is my point. So there will be the things that are completely brutally ruthless computer vision. This is the answer. And then there's how a human will actually interpret those results, and what those mean for the patient.
So if I start to summarize what I think our vision is that there is definitely a place for chat-based applications, that having an interaction with an AI that is insightful about what's going on for you is incredibly useful in some use cases. But there are going to be a huge number of applications of AI, be it generative AI or more traditional AI that's doing correlation essentially between bunches of objects. And what we will see as things mature, as we learn how to use things, is that the right tool will be used to solve the problem. We will get over this excitement about the latest video that Sora is creating that looks wonderful but is totally useless for anything other than looking wonderful. Which incidentally is why they get so much great coverage for these AI tools, because they look great on TV and they look great in news stories. But what we need is for these AIs to be built together into a solution that solves real problems, that makes our lives better, that gets rid of the undifferentiated.
If my phone is going to listen to me all the time, when I say Marge, I want me to bring it a beer. I want it to bring me a beer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems like a great way of interpreting exactly what Andy's desire are. But don't take away from him the ability to look at a wine list and find the most absolutely exquisite red wines on that wine list. That removes Andy's joy in life. And let's not have computers take away more of the joy in our lives.